This is You the People. Each week, us three Canadians talk about you, the people, your politics, your political system, your political books, and yes, your upcoming election. And with me, as always, Corey Hogan and Stephen Carter. Guys, what's going on?
Well, now I got a book to read, Zain, and I don't like to read books, so this is very upsetting for me.
I read his last one. It wasn't very complicated. It took very little time.
I think that you can just read the reviews online, and the summary of the book is, it's fucking chaos in the White House. I think that's pretty much what the entire book said. Carter,
I think the audio book should be like Trump's actual voice saying the quote. You know, they've got the tape. Why not inject the actual quote into the audiobook? Who's with me? I think that'd be good listening.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, you deserve royalties for that tremendous idea. How are things going otherwise?
Well, I just spent a lot of time outside. Again, Zain, outside in the beautiful Canadian wilderness. So thought a lot about you guys when I was out there.
Corey, anything going on in your world?
Yeah, I was inside thinking a lot about how I wasn't outside in the Canadian wilderness. Seemed good.
Yeah, Carter, why are you leading into these Canadian stereotypes that we spend all our time outside, that we all we do is explore nature? This is not helpful. It's not helpful to anybody.
I was looking for a place to bury you two.
Okay. On that extremely sour note, let's move it on to our headlines. Are you guys ready? Our first headline of the week comes to us from every media outlet. President Trump nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Norwegian parliamentary official for helping broker the Israel-UAE peace deal. Congratulations, guys. 2020 has another feather in its cap. Corey, what are you thinking?
Well, this isn't that surprising. So there's been a lot of bad nominees for the Nobel Peace Prize because the way it's set up is basically any parliamentarian in Norway can nominate somebody. And you know what? Just like Canada, just like the United States, there are some dog shit, terrible nominees. You know who else once got a nomination? Vladimir Putin. You know who else once got a nomination? Adolf Hitler. I mean, this is not necessarily a list that guarantees you're a good guy. So, I mean,
so what I'm hearing you say, Corey, is that there's good people on both sides who got nominated on the list. Is what I'm hearing you say. Carter, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I was going to just say the same thing as Corey. I mean, this proves that you don't have to be super smart to become elected in any country. And, you know, this also happened in 2018. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And, you know, when I first read it, I will tell you, I thought that he was one of the final nominees, and my head just about exploded. So I'm very pleased that this is just another whack job recognizing the whack job in chief, and not something that is more becoming of the Norwegian Parliament.
Well, you know, literally hundreds of people are nominated some years. Yeah. So, yeah. And he's one of them.
We'll move it on to our next one from CNN. A pyrotechnic device at a gender reveal party has been sourced as the spark of one of California's wildfires. I mean, is this the end of gender reveal parties? I think we know the gender of the person whose idea this was. I'm thinking male. But Carter, is this the end of gender reveal parties as we know it?
Well, as you know, Zain, I'm very old. And being very old, I'm old enough to remember when we found out the gender of our babies when the babies came. That was good enough for me. Why isn't it good enough for everybody else? Baby comes, find out your gender. That seemed to make sense. Plus, I mean, I'm told that in the woke culture, this is also something that we're not supposed to be doing anymore. So I'm fine with leaving it behind. I never embraced it in the beginning. So let's move on. Let's move on and not start any more catastrophic forest fires.
Corey, is the gender reveal party meeting Burning Man, which has now caused the California wildfires? I mean, is this the end of gender reveal parties as we know it?
No way. Now people are just going to, listen, we've only started a forest fire here. Let's wait for a nuclear war before we call this game. The reality is people are looking for any excuse to to celebrate and make attention about themselves. That's not really as shitty as it sounded, perhaps, when I just said it right there. Come on,
it's pretty shitty. Millennials and their fucking experiences. That's what they don't own anything, but they want all the experiences.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, there you go. Cut open an avocado, figure out the sex of your baby. But these aren't going away. Sadly, these are not going away.
Let's move it on to our third and final headline. This one looks like it came straight from The Onion, but it comes from The Hill. Trump Jr. on alleged Kenosha shooter. Quote, "We all do stupid things at 17. Yes.
That's so painful.
I'll leave that hanging for the cringeworthiness, Stephen. Going to you first. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I had a hairstyle that should never be replicated. I actually teased my hair out like Art Garfunkel and walked around like bobbing with my head so the hair would bounce up and down on it. I looked horrible. So yeah, I mean, 17-year-olds make terrible mistakes. I did not shoot anybody. And on top of that, I mean, Trump, I mean, this is the worst of humanity all coming together in one place. Like, making excuses for someone, first of all, don't talk about cases that are before the courts. That used to be a rule. We should return to that rule. We shouldn't be talking about these cases. And then secondly, we shouldn't be making excuses for people. That is beyond the pale. We just should not be allowing it to happen anymore. So those are my thoughts.
Corey, what do you think?
Well, let me tell you, Zane, I was 17. It was the 90s. I had short, bleach blonde, spiky hair. I wore baggy golf shirts and khakis. That was the style in the day, believe it or not. Murdered very few people. Very few people. And if people feel free to call me out on my
near
spiky...
zero? Was it near zero people?
It was plus or minus with a 1 of 0. And... yeah, I saved one life is what I mean. Yeah, it was -1. No, if people could call me out at that time about my shitty hair, I think we can call out a guy for murdering another human being. Like the notion that somebody would come to the defense of this asshole. On one hand, there's your life is probably not irredeemable at 17, but this kid screwed up big time, and screwed up is just too modest of a phrase here. And is going to be a lot of pain in a lot of people's lives because of it. But, the notion that you kind of become an apologist for it tells you everything about these people, these very fine people.
I mean, this is the family that called for the death of the Central Park Five. This is not a good
innocent.
Family. Yeah, they were innocent.
Yeah.
So they're not very good people. And, this is enough. I've done enough on this.
Let's move it on to our first segment. You kept that under wraps? Guys, I want to talk about the political revelation that is the Bob Woodward book that is sweeping a nation, not ours, but the one south of ours, with revelations that Donald Trump knew about the coronavirus. He knew that it was deadlier than the common flu. He knew it was deadlier than perhaps the most aggressive version of the flu, and is caught saying that he downplayed it. And he was purposely playing it down in media. This is in February, prior to the lockdown orders, which were mid-March, so a full month before. Let's start with where we are with the revelations for Trump. And Corey, maybe I'd get your thoughts first. What do you make of this as it relates to Donald Trump and his campaign with so little time already to pivot to a feasible strategy and message box?
All right. Well, first of all, caught. The guy said it to a reporter with a tape recorder in the room. He wasn't caught. He just said it. The guy is like the stupidest version of Watergate possible. Second of all, America is shocked. I mean, shock-defying gambling is going on here in this casino. Part of me is blown away that this is considered a big revelation. Did we think previous to this announcement, previous to this particular time he was caught on tape being a total shitbag, this time that he was an honest man who was doing the right thing and didn't lie to Americans, and there was already a ton of evidence out there that the American government knew that this thing was what it was at that time. So what's the revelation here is part of my reaction to all of this. But that said, it does seem to be something that's got the Trump campaign spinning. It does seem to have seized Americans. And even if it is not damaging, he's behind. And he's got to turn this around if he wants to get reelected. And this is a distraction for another day, 2 days, week, whatever. So even if it literally did nothing but distract, this would be bad news for Donald Trump.
Carter, is this revelatory, or do you agree with Corey's assessment?
I think it is actually revelatory. I think that there's a school of thought that says that Trump believes whatever he is saying in that moment. So when he is saying something about the coronavirus not being fatal for anybody except those who have already got a chronic illness, you have this sense that he believes that in that moment, or he says it's no more dangerous than the flu. He believes that in that moment. This is laying waste to that theory. This is saying that this is a man who has the capacity to say that in one briefing at one moment to one group of people and then say something completely different to another one. And I think that that's actually the revelation that's coming home to roost for the Trumpers, is that, it was okay when he believed the lies that he was saying, or he has a different version of the truth than the Democrats. That is okay, because in today's world, we're allowed to have multiple versions of a single truth. There is no truth without partisanship. But when you start to see that his truth is actually what we would call the truth, and he's been lying to the American people, I think that this actually stings, and the sting is going to last for a little bit longer than maybe the traditional blips. I mean, it's only 2 weeks ago Steve Bannon was taken away in handcuffs. Does anybody remember? No one remembers. We've gone through 37,000 news cycles since then. Maybe this won't last, but this feels different. It feels like this is playing against the type that is Donald Trump.
Carter, actually, Corey, why do you think the Trump campaign is spinning?
Well, it's clear that just the reaction to it and their attempt to clean it up, and them saying, no, I mean, he never actually said he misled the people. Obviously, that was wrong. Kayleigh, his press secretary, McKinnon, was really caught flat-footed by it. This notion that he is saying that he did it to protect the American people, which, to be fair, at the end of the quote that gets played, it is he didn't want to cause panic, right? But it does show, I guess, it does show a certain premeditation. I will give Stephen that. Though still, I don't think it fundamentally changes anybody's picture of anything here. And there's enough there that if you are a Trump supporter, you have the ability to hold on to that. Still, the fact that he's talking about this right now, this is not what Donald Trump wanted to be talking about this time in the election cycle. There's no doubt about that. And this does change the page from everybody talking about violence and discord in the street. Not everybody. I mean, that's basically just conceding the line to Donald Trump. But, he had some effect at getting that into the public conversation. And now the page is flipped. And that's not ideal for him.
I agree with you, Corey, that this perhaps doesn't change the plot of what people had already seen Donald Trump as. But Carter, let's talk about Biden, and then let's talk about the juiciest item of this story, which I think is the journalistic element of it in a second. Let's talk about Biden for a sec, which is, what should he be doing on this story, Carter? Do you agree with what he has done, which he's ultimately parroting the Lincoln Project, and him almost seemed to be having the same line, Trump knew? What did he know? When did he know it? The classic, hearkening back to the classic political line, what did you know? When did you know it? Effective? What do you think of that approach?
I listened to him today and I thought he sounded great. I think that, Joe Biden is an emotional man. And sometimes that emotion comes and bites him in the tushy. And other times the emotion plays honestly. We've talked about how, his earnestness and his emotion can really work in his favor when he's dealing with the families of servicemen, for example. When he's dealing with empathy and loss, it really works. Well, so does righteous indignation, being marveling at the crass nature of his opponent, and talking about the impact that it has had on American families, is right in his wheelhouse. He's able to carry that communications very well. It sounds super good. It sounds very solid, and it's able to kind of drive the emotion of the election in a way that I was worried that Biden wasn't going to be able to, because it's capturing a moment and being in that moment and having that emotion. That was something Hillary Clinton certainly didn't do, and Donald Trump did, and now all the emotional resonance is on the side for Joe Biden. Now, how long will that last? Will that last past September 29th in the first debate? I don't know, but it's certainly working right now, and he should absolutely run with it. It's working for him.
Corey, same question to you. What did you make of the Biden response to this? Do you feel like he's playing it the right way, both in terms of tone and message? I'd be curious to get your thoughts from your strategist hat on.
Yeah, he's presenting anger, but not rage. It's kind of a cold anger. I think it matches the tone that he wants to set on this, and the notion that you were just bringing it back to the idea that people died because of this is squarely in Biden's message box. We talked about this during the convention episodes here. If you were Joe Biden, you want to be talking about the absolutely atrocious response to COVID-19 that the president has mustered, shall we say. But, it's interesting. I saw the video, and he's talking very eloquently on it. He certainly doesn't look sleepy. He's not that parody of Joe Biden that Donald Trump was pitching. And he's certainly meeting the moment. And it's funny to me. This is just so obvious, but I'll say it anyways. The fact that it's Bob Woodward, the fact that, you're saying, what did the president know and when did he know it? And it just makes it too easy to conflate it with other scandals. Like, Donald Trump probably has an optics problem as much as anything here because of the characters involved and the nature of the quote unquote cover. It's a tape. It's Bob Woodward. It's what did the president know and when? I mean, this writes itself. By the way, aside, what did the president know and when did he know it was a question from a GOP senator trying to defend Nixon, as a little bit of Watergate trivia for you there. But Biden, in my opinion, is hitting that moment, and he's not sounding overly partisan. He's just sounding furious, but like a cold furious. And I think that's exactly what this is called for.
Carter, before we move to Woodward and the journalistic side of things, what would you be doing if you're Trump right now? Are you feeling like you're trying to get out of this? How would you be strategizing for him in this particular moment? I know it's not an easy question to ask, but hence the show, right? Like you've got strategist experience. You see some of the tea leaves. You know your guys made this error. Are you going in line with what they're trying to do right now? Which their principal excuse is, well, if this was a big deal, then Bob Woodward would have released this earlier. But since he didn't, it shows you this isn't a big deal. That's their current line of defense that they've started as of today. Is that right? Do you pivot to something else? What are you thinking?
It's absolutely wrong. You've got to do what you've been doing for 3+ years, 4 years. When you go back to the campaign, the way that the Trump campaign has successfully moved from one crisis to the next crisis is just simply allow the next crisis to happen. I mentioned earlier there were dozens of news cycles away from the Steve Bannon arrest. We don't remember what happened 3 weeks ago. We don't remember what happened 4 weeks ago. Now, in this particular case, you've got 8 weeks until the election. Let it go. Come up with your next scandal. Move on.
Why do you think they dealt with it this way, though, Carter? I agree with you. This should have been their strategy, which kind of goes to my earlier question to Corey about why do you think they're spinning on this particular one? What do you kind of make of it?
They're falling into a trap where they are starting to behave like Hillary Clinton and losing candidates before, where you start to address the issue that's in front of you instead of sticking to the talking points that are your talking points that are going to win you an election. An election is not the time to win a humanitarian prize or public speaking prize. An election is a time for you to put out your talking points that you do well with. And when the question is about A and you don't do well with A, you answer B. That is the way that you win elections. And Trump knew this. Frankly, Trump knew this by having very few talking points except crooked Hillary in the last election, and he was able to always return to it, and the media always covered it, and they always moved it forward, and he had a little bit of help from the FBI director. But the crooked Hillary stuff stuck and it worked and you stay with it. Now, Trump's only piece that he has right now is if you want to return to an economy that works, you've got to reelect me. That should be his number one message. And he needs another scandal to move to it. I think that's what he tried a little bit today with his, tweeting about, Kim Jong-un, being fine. Don't worry, he's fine. Like, he's fine. Right. Why is anybody asking? No one's asking. No one cares. But, it didn't take. So he'll try something ridiculous again tomorrow, and maybe it'll take. And 3 days from now, probably in the next podcast, the next You the People podcast, we're not going to remember this thing because Bob Woodward, who's that guy? And we'll have all ordered the book. But when it comes, we'll say, did I really order this book? Why did I order this book? This is a simple book. This isn't a good book. I'll move on.
Corey, I'll ask you this question from the strategist angle. I know you've answered the why the campaign might be spinning, but what would you be doing? Would you be doing what Carter's suggesting right now if you're advising the Trump camp as to ignore this and move on, stick to your message frame, or do you feel like something like this kind of needs to be addressed in a manner that they are doing it right now?
I think the real tactical error that the Trump campaign made was when this initially came up, not just saying, yeah, he did. That's what a fucking responsible president does. Donald Trump will always support the American people. Next question. Oh, yeah, he said that? Of course, he wants to protect the American people. Next question. The fact that they looked a little bit disjointed, a little bit confused, and took a moment on that, I think was part of their problem right there. But look, I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I think that if you could intuit anything about me from the last 6 episodes of this podcast, it's probably that I am not a Donald Trump fan. But his strategy has been largely successful, doing exactly what Steven says. Just, there is no bottom with the guy. There is no shock. We don't get surprised by him. He just should move on. Like this Kim Jong-un tweet would be disqualifying 10 years ago with any other candidate. Now it's background noise. It's not even enough to distract us, to Steven's point.
Yeah, now it's his change the channel strategy. A tweet that would have disqualified any other candidate is his, like, don't worry, I got this. Change the channel strategy. Just
be like, hey, that healthy, strapping dictator who murders his citizens. It's crazy. So, I think that Trump doing his cornered crazy thing where he just starts lashing out in every direction until people turn their head and look at whatever it is exactly what needs to go on.
Carter, let's talk about Bob Woodward, because there's a lot of controversy around this. Why did he not release this audio when he first had it? It could have saved lives. On the other side, a camp that's forming saying, nope, he did the right thing. He saved it for the time he felt like it could be most impactful, which was right before the election. Of course, the spin to that latter is that, nope, he saved it to sell more books when his book was ready. That's the ongoing sort of journalistic debate that we're seeing right now. But I want to get your take. What do you think?
I've been back and forth on this. I started off thinking, why wouldn't Bob Woodward, the former journalist, the man who breaks Watergate, bring us this story when it was happening? And I was, righteously indignant. And I think that I still live in that space a little bit, but I am starting to buy the argument that, first of all, Bob Woodward doesn't work. His job is to write books, not to write articles, not to break news. His job is to interview people, get the real story out, kind of in a historical construct. That's what he does now. So he is doing what he is doing. And, it's not like he just did this to the Republicans. He did this when Obama was president. He didn't break any news about Obama. He wrote the books. He released the books. Some of the stuff that was in the books was damning and hurtful to the Obama administration. So I guess that I'm coming back to, I really wish that he'd released the information, but it does make sense that a journalist who's writing a book, would take the time to actually write the book before, releasing the contents of it. So, I guess I'm coming back to Bob Woodward isn't such a bad guy after all. Although, God, I wish this was there earlier. But maybe it is better that we're getting this now, with weeks to go before the election. But I just don't know how people didn't know that Trump was a liar before. Now they'll know, but they won't, because they won't care.
Corey, what are you thinking? Are you feeling like he had a responsibility to the country, to the public health of the nation, to release this as soon as he found out?
Well, I'll refer you to what I said at the top, which is I actually don't think this is that shocking. So in that sense, I am probably a little more sympathetic about Bob Woodward holding it back, because this is not as though it would have necessarily changed the course of history. But let me argue the other point for a minute here. Imagine that in the interview, Bob Woodward heard Donald Trump say, "Hey, listen, Bob, come close. Come close, Bob. I got to tell you a secret. I'm a mass murderer. I've murdered thousands of people." You would want Bob Woodward to call the FBI. You would want Bob Woodward to sound the alarm. And imagine he said, hey, Bob, I accidentally killed tens of thousands of people. Again, you would want Bob Woodward to sound the alarm. And in a sense, isn't that actually what Donald Trump said to him? So, like, I can actually see a very strong argument for Bob Woodward saying, wait a minute. So you knew this was terrible and you let Americans just keep walking around their lives. You kept confusing the issue. People died, man. Every day is half of a 9/11 almost right now. Like, this is a serious situation. And it's not as though America is the same as the rest of the world. The rest of us aren't dying like this, America. You know, I mean, like, there are some bad places in the world, but you are the worst. You are by far the worst. And it's because of the actions of your president directly. You can draw a pretty clear line here. So in a sense, I feel like Bob Woodward did have a responsibility, because we're not talking about this is embarrassing to the administration. This is the ongoing actions of the administration have led to the deaths of Americans. And there is a different standard there. Like, I think we can sort of agree there is an extreme where you would say, books be damned. The fact that you were just supposed to be putting things out in long form be damned. This is really serious and people need to know this. And so, yeah, I mean, Bob Woodward, maybe you should have said something.
Carter, do you think he faces more heat? Do you think this kind of extends for him? Do you think, let's leave all the book sale BS to the side. Do you think this actually is a problem for the Washington Post and Bob Woodward right now?
I don't think so. I think that at the end of the day, the villain in this is Donald Trump. You know, if anything, he's an accessory after the fact. Corey raises a good point. You know, the actual sin is that people were dying. And I guess that does make it significantly different, than other, scandals that Trump has been involved with. You know, I mean, he's been involved with things involving the U.S. military, but it's not as bad as, I guess it's nearing 200,000 Americans that have passed away now from COVID. I mean, this is real. It continues. Even today, he's talking about getting kids back in school in incredibly difficult circumstances. So I don't think that Bob Woodward will be the villain. I think that Donald Trump will be. But I mean, I love that we always want to have more than one villain. At the end of the day, Donald Trump is the villain in this story. And if I were Biden and if I were the rest of the left wing, as it, you know, or the Democrats, I'd be pointing the finger at one person, not at Donald Trump and Bob Woodward.
Corey, what are you thinking right now? Are you thinking that this extends for Bob Woodward in a negative way? Is this a problem for him in the Post?
I don't think it's a problem for them selling books. They'll sell a lot of books. I don't even think it's a problem for the Washington Post. It continues to sort of, reinforce their relevance. But hey, listen, your slogan's democracy dies in darkness. Americans die because of publication bans. It's not good. But it is what it is. I don't think it's going to hurt them from a business point of view at all, though.
Let's move it on to our next segment. You are a sucker and a loser. I want to talk about, of course, what seems like, to Stephen's point, multiple news cycles ago, but has not been that long, which is the infamous Atlantic article, but touch upon it and talk about the Trump strategy, because the strategy has very seemingly turned towards fear. It is very seemingly turned towards a 2018 playbook of othering, of violence, of turning, racial justice protests into protests against America. Donald Trump coming out with a memo labeling certain cities in America as being anarchist run. But perhaps let's start with that article that I mentioned and talk about its damage for a second. And Carter, maybe I'll start with you. What are you thinking? The Atlantic piece that came out a few days ago now, not months ago, seems like it though. Any sustaining damage, or is Trump just kind of covered his tracks with the friendly help of Bob Woodward? And I put "cover his tracks" in quotes, of course.
Well, I mean, this is the scandal to scandal discussion that I was talking about earlier. You know, we move from, I mean, this is another damning indictment of Donald Trump. I mean, for him to refer to U.S. service people in this fashion, especially those that were killed in action or prisoners of war. But why are we surprised? The man referred to John McCain as a loser. You know, he preferred his soldiers to be the ones that weren't captured. This was out in the open, in the media, on the record, years ago. And it continued right through, McCain's untimely death. This was something that is out there that Donald Trump says frequently. And the reporting of it just made it a little bit more real, a little bit more, wrong by targeting, service people who'd recently served and recently passed away, in the service of their country. And for Donald Trump to denigrate them, in this fashion certainly opened a lot of old wounds that really weren't that old. So I think that this had, again, some legs. It had some damaging capacity, with the military. It had some damaging capacity with the leaders of the military, but now it's gone. It's gone. It was a fleeting moment. Another one of those fleeting moments of Donald Trump's, crisis to crisis lurch. And I don't know that it will continue to have the legs that really, Corey said earlier, any one of these is a disqualifying act for another president. And they're just strung together one day apart. Bang, bang, bang. How is the media? How are we as consumers of the media? How are we as, educated people in politics? And forget about the people who aren't paying attention. Like, how are people supposed to get a sense of everything and the scale of what has changed over the course of the past 4 years?
Corey, same question to you. I mean, you in the last question when we talked about, when I used the word caught, you said, what was he caught with? This is what he wanted to say. And it could almost be said about this article. It could almost be authored by Donald Trump in some ways. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think you don't need me, because that was exactly going to be my point. He's disparaged war heroes for years. He has been deeply critical and harsh about anybody in the military that doesn't support him, right? He's always kind of supported this vague notion of the military, like he supports the flag, right? He talked about his generals, but as soon as his generals became John Kelly, and it was an actual person, and that actual person rubbed up against him, well, then screw that guy, as far as Donald Trump was. His behavior has been very consistent on this front. But, Carter said something about, like, this made it a little bit more real. And that I want to kind of carry back to our last conversation, too. Maybe Donald Trump is getting worried that it's harder to believe the lie. These things are just a little too on the nose. They're the too perfect encapsulations of his real positions on these things. He is deeply cynical about the military, and he thinks they're a bunch of suckers. He intentionally misled the American people because he wanted to downplay it. It's hard to argue against when you start having actual quotes to that effect. And perhaps that's part of what's got Trump seeming a bit more panicked about these things than he otherwise has been on other issues, because time is running out. It's pretty tough to argue against them. Just spinning around seems to be spinning them from one crisis to the other. But on the other hand, to cut against my point here, when you said, hey, let's talk about that Atlantic article, it took me 30 seconds to understand what the hell you were talking about. I read that article. Yeah. I followed all of the coverage on it. I completely forgot. I mean, this guy is very good at changing the channel until Carter actually started talking about the military. I'm like, oh, military. It's the military comments. So we may actually forget all of this in 3 days and feel kind of silly that we thought it was a big deal this week. I mean, he continues to run. He continues to just do crazy shit all over the place. I don't want to repeat all of my comments on the last one, but, like this military thing didn't actually seem to be that damaging. And it's too late to say the final summation, or too early, but doesn't seem that damaging right now.
And I brought these points up deliberately because I want to talk about the next 54 days, which is what this is going to be about. It's going to be about 24-hour channel changers on issues that either if they come out about him, he will just avoid and get over in 24 hours, or about, issues that he wants to try to throw at the American people in a way, in a cadence, and as a message that is going to be unprecedented. And how is anyone planning for the next 54 days? Because, we talk about that period between Election Day and January as potentially being unprecedented. I'd argue that the next 50 days are going to be the most unprecedented final stretch we are going to see in electoral history. With Donald Trump's no understanding of bottom, with no sort of qualms as to where to go, how are you kind of trying to digest this and plan for this, knowing that he will throw everything in the kitchen sink at the electorate over the course of the next 54 days? Carter?
Well, I mean, I'm really interested in the normal things, right? The things that are going to happen that are going to be normal. The debates are going to be normal. Are they? Right? Like, there's something that's going to happen. There are going to be debates. They were very strange debates in 2016. I mean, it wasn't like we looked at those debates and saw, Trump walking away with it. Now, at the same time, Trump didn't shit the bed. So, and Hillary had her issues, but still, this is not a normal thing to experience. I'm very much wondering what happens with the big normal moments. Most voters have made up their mind in the United States. This is very different than in Canada, where we have a lot of voters who make up their mind at the very last minute. But those who are undecided and those who might switch will tend to do it around the big moments. And I'm just not sure that the big moments are going to look like big moments of the normalcy, right? Like the normal campaign. I mean, you've got Trump simultaneously calling, Biden Sleepy Joe and basically questioning his ability to perform under any circumstance, while at the same time kind of not building him up in the debates. I mean, there's all these contradictory messaging, and I'm really interested to see how the big moments play. I know that I'm going to be watching the debates very, very closely.
Corey, are the big moments, the debates, the voter mobilization, those things that you still stick to fundamentals if you're the GOP? Or are you buying fully into the strategy of, like, let's do everything without the first principles of political campaigning and electioneering?
Well, I think this is first principles, Zain. When you're behind by 8 points, you go for big swings. And Trump has always been a big swing guy. He's always been deeply unorthodox. But what he's doing is actually fairly orthodox. If you're behind, you do big crazy things. You try to grab attention like this. There are 3 major debates coming up. Well, 4 if you count the vice presidential debate. And Donald Trump is, if he continues to be behind by this, he is not going to play them safe. He is going to leave it all on the floor. And for him, leave it all on the floor is lie like a sociopath and essentially just create accusations on the spot, knowing a lot of Americans won't fact check them. And I think we can expect more rhetoric about the election being stolen. I think we can expect more rhetoric about America falling apart at the seams because of Democrats. All of this, standard Trump fare at this point, but dial up to 11. And if he finds it's not working at 11, he'll go to 12. He'll go to 13. Like, this guy has no shame. And so whereas I say candidates in normal times will do the big swing when they're far behind like this, there's a certain amount of, there's decorum that's been left in the background so far. But, in this country, you wouldn't accuse your opponent of being a pedophile. Like, that bridge has been crossed already. Like, they insinuate that about the Democrats. The Pizzagate was exactly that, right? What do we think the limit is here? Like, how far do we think they have to go before they say this is too far? I don't think there is a limit at this point. And that does get us into a bit of crazy territory, but it's not unconventional, I suppose, is what I want to say.
Carter, if you know there's no limit, how are you strategizing this as either the media or the Biden campaign right now? Take a pick on either of them. There's no normal. I mean, they've been dealing with this for a while, and their current strategy, at least from the media side, has been to chase whatever's next, which is why it allows Trump to just flip the channel constantly. But how are you dealing with the next 54 days if you're Team Biden or the press?
Well, I'm telling you right now, I mean, I think the Biden team is doing this pretty well in that they've reduced their number of events to kind of one major event a day. They are pushing that event out. They're making sure that it's getting the media coverage that it needs. That is the right play to make. This is not a campaign where you go around and you try and touch 5, 6, 7 states in a day. This is about one thing, one message, and it's carried every day the same way. So that's the first thing that the Biden team has done. The second is that they've got to double down on debate prep. They've got to make sure that every tone, every situation that he can find himself in, that Biden finds himself in the debate, has been scripted, has been experienced, and he has it ready and available to him at every moment. Because he's going to need to, in the moment, fact check Trump. He's going to need to, in the moment, react emotionally to what Trump is saying. Because if you think that Trump's going to call, these losers and suckers, and he's going to leave it alone, he's going to bring it up in the debate in some fashion. And Biden needs to be able to pounce on it and to jump back and say that, and have the indignation that we were talking about earlier, for the American people, for service people, for the people who've passed away from COVID, from the people who haven't found economic opportunity again. He needs to be able to stand up for those people, and that debate prep needs to be massive, and it needs to be really doubled down on, because as much as the other option is to just minimize them and say, debates have never shifted the outcome of an election. No one's buying that. No one's buying that this time. That's for damn sure.
Corey, same question to you. What is the Biden team doing right now? How are you strategizing for them? How are you responding to a level of unprecedented Hail Marys like you've never seen before, knowing that, to your earlier point, there's no floor to what Trump might do?
Well, I think you need to set expectations around that point. And for the debate, you can say, we don't expect it to be a good debate. We're not even saying we don't expect it to be a good debate for Joe Biden, although it will be challenging for him because he is used to debating people who, have essentially a set of rules, like the Marquess of Queensberry rules of debates. Like, I will attempt to tell the truth within a certain bound. I will not get personal. I will not try to invade, space like he did with Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump doesn't care about any of these rules. And so I think we all need to manage our expectations about what's going to come out of this. I'm talking as the Biden campaign now,
Yep.
It's going to be tough because Joe Biden's going to have to sit there and just be lied about for an hour. And that's something that Donald Trump is very comfortable with. That's not a setting Joe Biden is comfortable with. So I would be setting expectations like that. Then I would also be preparing for quite the contrast. I agree with Stephen. He needs to have a command of the facts. He needs to do fact checking in real time. If that is not within his capacity, and it's not within everybody's capacity, so he has to know his limitations there, right? You have to know yourself in a debate, and you need to make sure you don't get yourself dragged into a dark alley of your own making. So don't try to fact check and break the fact check, because then forget it. But in addition to that fact checking, you need to be very conscious of contrast. So my personal feeling about Biden over these next 50 some days is, as he gets crazy, as Donald Trump gets crazier, Joe Biden has to not, right? Don't match crazy with crazy, all of the time, but in particular at these big moments like the debate, he needs to seem angry, but not unhinged. He's got to have that cool anger that we talked about earlier. Speaking of cool, he needs to seem, cool, but not slow during the debate. He can't be too hot and jump on top of, Donald Trump's frenetic Adderall fueled energy. He's got to be like, well, Donald, that's just wrong. And here's why. He can't sort of match that energy level, but he also can't seem like he's slow Joe. And then, he's got to be dismissive, but not peevish. And this is something Joe Biden has had trouble with in the past, right? You think back to that first debate where we saw Joe Biden in the vice presidential debate against Sarah Palin, the big knock against Joe Biden. He just seemed peevish. He seemed like he knew it all, and he was a bit dismissive. And that could be a problem debating Trump too, because that will play into the Trump voters' sense of like this entitled liberal elite. He needs to say like, no, that's wrong. But he can't be like, oh my God, this idiot again, right? Like, he's got to hit a certain energy level throughout this whole thing.
Carter, what's the pressure on debate moderators this time? We're talking about debate, so let's go in this direction, right? Like, is this an unprecedented territory for them too, to rapidly real-time fact check? He's called them the fake news media. What is the pressure on a debate moderator to keep this thing on the rails as they never have before?
Well, I think that it will escalate as each debate moves forward. The debate moderators, haven't been noted for doing on the moment, fact checks in the moment. In fact, most of the facts, the lies or the mistruths or the half-truths or whatever words we wish to use, are allowed to go because the moderators view that as not the job of the moderator, but the job of the voter, to wade through, what is true and what is not true. Having said that, I think that there's going to be pressure and perhaps this is one of the ways that the Biden team could, work to ensure that the table is set up properly. You can't just let someone lie. You need to be able to push back on some level, and I think Chris Wallace especially is going to be someone who will be very important to doing the fact checks. I can't remember which debate he got named to, if it was the second one or the first one, but from there, from his point of view, he has done live fact check with the president during an interview. And I think that if he wants to build his reputation, and let's be clear, these moderators, they're building their reputation. They're building their audience for their shows and for their news organization. If he wants to build that, then him being in a position where he can fact check both candidates, because this isn't about one, this is about both of them, is going to be really important for the quality of the debate.
Corey, same question to you on debate moderators, their ceiling, and then to get into Carter's point, what can the Biden camp do to ensure that the moderators have the scaffolding that they need to be able to moderate what might be an unprecedented debate?
Well, taking it in reverse, nothing. The more that they apply pressure on the moderators, the harder it will be for the moderators to fact check, because then it will be them doing exactly what the Democrats have asked for. So forget it. I mean, you're kind of in a no-win situation there. There's no point in dragging the debate moderators into it. You're just going to have to let them do their thing. I stand by everything I said about setting expectations, but one of those can't be, I need the moderator to save me, for a bunch of reasons, not least of which is it creates this optical pressure for the moderator, but also because it then makes you look weak, like you need the moderator to save you. So forget about that on that front. Now, turning my attention to what Chris Wallace has to do in that first debate, and yes, I'm pretty certain you're right, and he drew the first debate there, Stephen. Yeah. He needs to go into that thing having watched the game tape, having seen the last 5 days of Donald Trump speeches, because he does tend to repeat the same lies, plus, like he'll exaggerate them a little more each time, and be ready to rebut those things in real time. He should do the same thing with Joe Biden, but, I don't like this both sidesism, like Joe Biden exaggerating a statistic by 10% versus Donald Trump fabricating a service member. Like these are different lies, and that should be kept in mind there. And I'm sure Wallace will keep that in mind. But he's got to go in prepped, and he's got to knock down Biden enough that to observer he looks like he's the honest broker, but not so much that he is just trying to do point for point and keep the scales balanced, because that's dumb, because then he's not really doing his job. Right? His job should be to try to keep the debate honest and forthright. And if one side's lying more than the other, he should be calling out one side more than the other.
Carter, let's close on this, which is, if you're the Biden camp right now, the opposite, you're looking at Donald Trump, you're perhaps laughing at some of the Hail Marys he's trying to take, but there is the opposite of the Hail Marys that your desperate opponent takes, which is that you can get criticized for just trying to sit on a lead and run the clock out. And I want to talk about that danger to Joe Biden right now, which is, a lot of the advice you guys have been giving him has been to double down, to look tempered, to look like he's got good temperament and judgment, to not match angry with angry. Many people could view that as just a guy who's looking to run the clock out until he becomes president. So perhaps if I can get your thoughts on what it looks like to nuance between actually doubling down and looking presidential with good temperament versus just trying to protect the lead, because there is a tightrope to walk there that I think is important for us to tease out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you need to be very aware of the difference between, not making an error, like not trying hard enough to not hitting the ball out of the park, or making an unforced error that costs you the campaign. If I was the Biden team, I would be far more concerned about making an error, and that error could cost him the campaign. He is not great on his feet. He has a tendency to misspeak. He emphasizes the wrong things, puts words together in the wrong fashion. I'm not criticizing. That just is. We all do that. I mean, Lord knows a number of times I've had to unpack Corey's, convoluted, information. But that's what happens in a live show. So I would err towards not making any mistakes. And if it does look like you're, running out the clock, hoping to win the game, I'm okay with that. Like, then everybody's talking about how you're in front. He hasn't had a sustained hit yet. We've seen a little bit of weakness in a few states. But right now, the biggest error would be one mistake and something really falling apart. The wheels falling off the Biden bus. And that's really, I think, in hindsight, you saw that with Hillary, not her own mistake, but, the Comey accusations or admission of an investigation was all that was required to really take the wheels off of a rather rickety bus anyways. But nonetheless, you should learn from that experience and not put yourself in that position.
Carter, am I hearing you say, just to clarify, that you would be fine with the Biden team running out the clock, that in this scenario, that strategy might be their best play, because an unforced error based on how Biden would be judged versus Trump, which is a lot more harshly on those, that actually could be the slippery slope that lets them lose, or like puts them in a territory to lose this thing?
This isn't going to be an equal playing field. You're not going to get, let's add up all the mistakes that were made by Donald Trump over the past 6 months, and let's compare them to all the mistakes that Joe Biden made. It's not done that way. It's whatever's happening in the moment is the story of the moment, right? So if Biden becomes the story of the moment just before the election, that's the story that carries the day. We've already admitted we're not going to be remembering Bob Woodward's recordings of Donald Trump 50 days from now. That'll be so many news cycles in the past that it won't matter. It will have helped to have generated a general perception, but it takes one instance to undo that entire general perception and to have the general perception move the other way. And that's what makes these campaigns so difficult for the candidates. We're not giving them the opportunity to really create a strong general brand. All we're doing is allowing them to have a brand that falls apart with one misstep. And maybe that's just the reality of branding right now. Maybe every brand is just one step away from complete disaster. But it's particularly poignant in politics.
Corey, same question to you. Do you agree with Carter? Do you think protecting the lead, trying to run down the clock with 54 days left, is perhaps the optimal strategy amongst a lot?
No. Your comment is a really solid point, Zain. When I say things like, hey, be calm, be cool, be collected, that could very easily be misunderstood, or just understood. I won't even say misunderstood, as not taking any risks. But really, that is about setting a contrast with an opponent who is everything but that. I don't think Joe Biden can, quote unquote, sit on this lead. It's not that out of reach for Donald Trump when you start looking at it in electoral votes. And I'm not going to change what I said last week. I mean, that would be quite the whipsaw. It's not that far away, a couple of Midwestern states, and all of a sudden Donald Trump's back in this thing. So he can't just stay in his bunker. I like what he's doing, where he's going out and trying to amplify that through all the channels, using that single opportunity to get as much of his message out as possible. He's going to have to continue to push himself into the conversation. He's got to have to take these hot issues on and not just say, oh, well, let's just let Trump twist in the wind on this. Today was a good example, right? He stood up at a microphone and he took a round out of Donald Trump. That's not a shocking or strange thing for a candidate to do at a moment like this, but whenever he does something like that, there is a risk to him. He's going to have to keep taking those risks. He's going to have to keep going to Kenosha and saying things like, somebody will shoot me if I keep talking here.
Yeah.
Because the alternative when I say just sit on a lead, or what it means to me, I guess, would be, Oh, I'm not going to Kenosha, right? Yeah, Donald Trump got that image, but I'm not getting involved in that conversation. That's the conversation that's happening. It's not a question of Donald Trump dominating necessarily or pushing that into it. Like Kenosha was happening either way. He made sure his version got out there. He flew out there. He took that risk. He did it. He's going to have to keep taking risks like that. He can't just sit on this lead. He can't just let Trump run around and own the board. A, because he'll be reacting every time, right? He's got to set some of his own agenda on that. And B, because that will just allow a less defined Joe Biden to be defined by his opponent.
Carter, you want to close off with some comments there?
Well, I mean, I don't think Corey and I are that far apart, actually, in our analysis. What he's describing with Kenosha was a scripted event where Biden stuck to the script for the most part. What I'm describing is like just reaching outside and really pushing beyond that. Like everything that's being done by the Biden campaign right now, by dropping down to 1 or so events a day, 6 a week or 5 a week or whatever they're doing, they're giving themselves the ability to tightly control those events by, and putting a media spin on the events that are essential for them to be successful. Corey and I aren't necessarily on different sides of this. We're just taking different points of it. Because I would argue that what Corey's describing is by traditional campaign strategies, very, very conservative.
I could even concede that. I guess what I would say is in this time of COVID, he does have an avenue where he does even less, right? It wouldn't be hard to make an excuse to say, we're just not going to do that event. It's not very safe. So our whole scale is a bit different right now. Joe Biden doing one event a day would, by any other metric, seem incredibly reserved in his shell. At this moment, it doesn't necessarily feel the same way. So, look, I'm willing to concede that for sure. And maybe if he loses this, we'll look back and say, fuck, one event a day. It's not hard to imagine why that guy lost. But I do think that it would be a mistake to look at this as something that Joe Biden's running away with right now.
Let's move it on to our final segment, our overrated and our underrated. Guys, are you ready?
So ready.
Carter, I'm going to start with you. Bob Woodward has his book out. He's going to sell a lot of copies. Revelatory political books, overrated or underrated?
Overrated. They last for a moment in the zeitgeist. They'll sell 200,000 copies. That'll be an enormous bestseller. But at the end of the day, 200,000 copies, my TikTok account has that many people following it. Like it's just not a really big number. You guys should see it. The dances are insane. Really, really good.
Corey, same question to you. Revelatory political books, overrated or underrated?
Way overrated. Remember the room where it happens? Remember how Bolton was going to shake everything up? You don't? Hey, that was like less than 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Too much.
Michael
and never
Cohen
enough.
had a book last week, by the way. Just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, I don't even know if I did. Mary Trump, her book.
Oh yeah, changed
Where
everything.
Where is that now? Yeah, it hasn't changed a bloody thing. I think they're kind of caught in an era, half when we had less media and people actually cared more about those things. Like there's just so many bloody books right now. I think that's part of it. Who's got time to read all of this stuff? And then, there's also this romanticism that you can change the course of events with your prose like this, going back to the Federalist Papers. But the reality was even different then. I doubt the Federalist Papers changed too many minds, frankly. Certainly that's what scholarship suggests. They're so overrated. They're so overrated. And, some make dents. There's no question. But tell me the last time a presidential election hinged on a book. Has it ever happened? Primary Colors by Anonymous. You remember how that was such a big deal?
Yeah.
Did that change the fates?
Yeah,
Became a movie.
You're right.
That
You're
didn't
right.
even change the fates.
It definitely did not do its intended effect, if its intended effect was to change the political outcome. Corey, I'm sticking with you on this. Biden and DNC outraising Trump by over $150 million in August. Overrated or underrated?
Oh, I think it's rated just right. Everybody knows that, Biden cleaned Trump's clock. And if, with Trump's coffers as low as they are, this could be a serious problem for Donald Trump for the next 2 months. Biden being able to outspend him means that even if he's deeply inefficient with that spend relative to the Trump campaign, we've talked about how we think Trump's digital first strategy is maybe even not so bad. It's just, there's so much more margin for error when you have money like that. Even if you're getting half the efficiency of the other guy, if you got twice as much money, who cares?
Carter, same question to you. The outraising of Donald Trump by $150 million by Biden in the DNC. Overrated, underrated?
Underrated. I mean, you look at, everybody gets very fixated on polling. Just show me a campaign's fundraising report and I'll tell you how they're doing. Campaigns that raise more money are doing better than campaigns that don't raise as much money. It is that simple. Everybody looks at the financial markets, the betting markets. Nope. Take a look at the fundraising reports that come in from the campaigns. That's going to tell you a story. And right now the story is Biden's doing a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump.
Carter, I'm going to stick with you for this final one. On the heels of this story coming out for Woodward and Trump, a memo has come out from the Biden campaign saying that they're going to try to meme up the what did he know and when did he know it, as we previously discussed, trying to make that a central thesis of trying to extend the news cycle on this Trump story regarding when he knew about the coronavirus. So that I have to ask you, the phrase, and spending energy to meme it, what did he know and when did he know it? Is the phrase overrated or underrated based on the current moment we find ourselves in?
Overrated. I mean, the Lincoln Project already has an ad up going through essentially the timeline with what he said to Bob Woodward versus what he's saying to the general public at the exact same time. That's going to be gone. It's going to be gone in seconds. One of the problems of these, I came up in what we called the 24-hour news cycle, and news could break at any moment. But what we're seeing now is like a 2-hour news cycle. The news breaks, it's covered, and it's forgotten. And I think that this is going to be one of those forgotten moments. It is defining a picture, right? The past week has actually been very harmful for Trump, not because we remember, suckers and losers as much as we should, but because that added to the Bob Woodward allegations paints a picture of a president that doesn't care about Americans. And that's the central theme that the Biden campaign needs to pick up on. The Trump does not care about you, not a specific of what did he know and when did he know it. That's bullshit. Trump doesn't care about you. That should be their talking point from now for another 54 days. Let's see it. Let's make it happen.
Corey, same question. What did he know? When did he know it? As a message construct, as a message structure, overrated or underrated?
That's different than what you asked Carter. As a message construct, I don't know. As a meme, fucking dog shit. Just terrible. This is a reference to the Watergate scandal. This is a reference to a question that was given almost 50 years ago, and you're trying to package this for the internet literati. I mean, come on. That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Maybe if you were talking to a audience the age of Joe Biden, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. When I was 27 years old and my first child was born, I remember hearing that, okay. But who the hell is this for? Talk about a mix, between message and delivery that makes absolutely no sense at all. I mean, that's ridiculous.
We're going to leave it there on Corey's indignation. We're going to leave it there. That's a wrap on You the People for this week.
Yeah. Zain.
Yeah.
Good work on You the People this week, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
Good work.
How many Americans have you killed? Have you killed a lot of Americans? Just want to quickly ask you. So we are going to leave it there. That's a wrap on You the People for this week, and we'll see you next time.